record this. Okay, we're on the 7th paragraph of the 10th verse of the 7th chapter. The first.
Look, Zannu got his Krishna Leela book.
All right.
He's all excited. All right, sorry.
Kids are like in New Vrindavan. I remember, the kids are so absorbed in Krishna's pastimes. I remember outside the lodge one time, some kids were playing and they had some like bow and arrow or fake bow and arrow, or I don't know.
Doing the Ramayan.
But one kid said he was pretending he was Ramachandra, right? And he told the other kid, Lakshman, take Sita to the mountain cave. And they were just enacting all these pastimes. And kids will do that, and then they'll dream about Krishna at night. It's such a wonderful way to raise children.
It is.
Absorb them in those pastimes, because that's what they remember, and if you start them out young, like five years old, like Zannu, they'll remember that stuff for the rest of their life.
Oh, he knows all about those things. He's been watching it. He's been engulfed in it since the womb, so he's really attracted to it. He's watched the Ramayan cartoons, and
instead of watching Ninja Turtles, he watches the Kerma Turtle.
Yeah.
Hetu means causal. There are many causes for one's sense satisfaction, and they can be chiefly classified as material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation, which are generally desired by progressive persons. As far as material enjoyments are concerned, they're innumerable, and the materialists are eager to increase them more and more because they are under the illusory energy. There is no end to the list of material enjoyments, nor can anyone in the material universe have them all. As far as the mystic powers are concerned, there are 8 in all, such as to become the minutest in form, to become weightless, to have anything one desires, to lord it over material nature, to control other living beings, to throw earthly globes in outer space, etc. These mystic powers are mentioned in the Bhagavatam. The forms of liberation are 5 in number. Go ahead and read the next paragraph.
Therefore, unalloyed devotion means service to the Lord without desire for the above-mentioned personal benefit. And the powerful personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, can be fully satisfied by such unalloyed devotees, free from all sorts of desires for personal benefit. Okay, keep going.
Unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities, and above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called sadhana bhakti. When the unalloyed practice of the sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages of loving service under the headings of attachment, love, affection, feelings, affinity, adherence, following, ecstasy, and intense feelings of separation.
The attachment of an inactive devotee develops up to the stage of transcendental love of God. Attachment of an active servitor develops up to the stage of adherence, and that for a friendly devotee develops up to the stage of following. And the same is also the case for the fraternal devotees. The devotees in conjugal love develop ecstasy up to the stage of intense feelings of separation. These are some of the features of the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord.
According to the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, the import of the word itam bhutam is, quote, complete bliss, end quote. Transcendental bliss in the realization of impersonal Brahman becomes comparable to the scanty water contained in the pit made by a cow's hoof. It is nothing compared to the ocean of bliss of the vision of the personality of Godhead. The personal form of Lord Shri Krishna is so attractive that it comprehends all attraction, all bliss, and all tastes, rasas. These attractions are so strong that no one wants to exchange them for material enjoyment, mystic powers, and liberation. There is no need of logical arguments in support of this statement, because out of one's own nature, one becomes attracted by the qualities of Lord Sri Krishna. We must know for certain that the qualities of the Lord have nothing to do with mundane qualities. All of them are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality while another is attracted by another.
Great sages such as the four bachelor devotees, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, and Sanat Kumar, are attracted by the fragrance of flowers and tulsi leaves, anointed with the pulp of sandalwood offered at the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, Shukadeva Goswami was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami was already situated in the liberated stage, yet he was attracted by the pastimes of the Lord. This proves that the quality of his pastimes has nothing to do with material affinity. Similarly, the young cowherd damsels were attracted by the bodily features of the Lord, and Rukmini was attracted by hearing about the glories of the Lord. Lord Krishna attracts even the minds of the goddesses of fortune. He attracts, in special cases, the minds of all young girls. He attracts the minds of the elderly ladies by paternal affection. He attracts the minds of the male in the humor of the servitude and friendship.
Yeah, he's just talking about the Kumars and Shukadeva Goswami, because this is the Atmaram verse. Atmaram means even those who are already liberated are attracted to Krishna. So Shukadeva Goswami was liberated even in the womb, and he refused to go out of the womb. He was in his mother's womb for like 9 years. And then he finally came out once he realized that he could hear from his father about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And so he came out, and immediately he left home as soon as he came out. And his father was just like calling out for him, and as he was walking away, and all he heard in response was like the echoes from the trees in the forest. And then the Kumars were already liberated too, but they were attracted by they got attracted by the qualities of Krishna from the fragrance of the tulsi leaves and sandalwood that was offered to Krishna's feet when the Kumars were in the presence of Krishna. They smelled that aroma. And so all these different senses can attract, they're kind of like impetuses for ecstatic love, for a devotee. You can become attracted by any of the features, the sight, smell, sound, whatever it is. The devotees were attracted by the bodily features, and Rukmini had never even met Krishna, but she had heard about him, and she decided then, after hearing about him, that she wanted him for her husband. And so she sent him a letter because she was betrothed to by her brother to Shishupal, who was a real jerk, and she didn't want him. And so she sent a letter, like express letter to Krishna, because her marriage was like in only a couple of days. He had to go there and kidnap her, because that's a way that's another form of marriage in Vedic society. You can kidnap a woman and then they're considered married. She wanted that, because then nobody else can touch her, So that's what he did, That's a great pastime.
I love it.
So the word Hari conveys various meanings. The chief import of the word is that he, the Lord, vanquishes everything inauspicious and takes away the mind of the devotee by awarding pure transcendental love. By remembering the Lord in acute distress, one can be freed from all varieties of miseries and anxieties. Gradually, the Lord vanquishes all obstacles on the path of devotional service of a pure devotee, and the result of 9 devotional activities, such as hearing and chanting, becomes manifested.
By his
So,
personal features and transcendental attributes, the Lord attracts all psychological activities of a pure devotee, such as the attractive power of Lord Krishna. The attraction is so powerful that a pure devotee never hankers for any of the four principles of religion. These are the attractive features of the transcendental attributes of the Lord. And adding to this the words api and cha, one can increase the imports unlimitedly. According to Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 synonyms for the word api. So by interpreting
by interpreting each and every word of this shloka, one can see unlimited numbers of transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna that attract the mind of a pure devotee. So there's so many features of, I think there's a verse somewhere in the Bhagavatam that says, scientists might be able to count all the atoms in the universe, or all the snowflakes, or all the, the grains of sand on the seashore, but they'll never be able to count all the transcendental attributes of Krishna, because Ananta Shesh, with his 1,000 heads, he's always glorifying Krishna, right? The big snake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually on my, he's sitting on the Ananta Shesh, Nrsimhadev is, and he's always glorifying with his 1,000 mouths the qualities of Krishna, but he has never been able to get to the end of them, so it's unlimited. Let's see here, number 11. Srila Śukadeva Goswami, son of Srila Vyasadeva, was not only transcendently powerful, he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus, he underwent the study of this great narration, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Go ahead.
According to Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Srila Śukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul even within the womb of his mother. Srila Vyasadeva knew that the child, after his birth, would not stay at home. Therefore, he, Vyasadeva, impressed upon him the synopsis of the Bhagavatam, so the child could be made attached to the transcendental activities of the Lord. After his birth, the child was still more educated in the subject of the Bhagavatam by recitation of the actual poems.
The idea is that gradually the liberated souls are attached to the feature of impersonal Brahman with a monistic view of becoming one with the Supreme Whole. But by the association of pure devotees like Vyasadeva, even the liberated soul becomes attracted to the transcendental qualities of the Lord. By the mercy of Sri Narada, Srila Vyasadeva was able to narrate the great epic of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and by the mercy of Vyasadeva, Srila Śukadeva Goswami was able to grasp the import. The transcendental qualities of the Lord are so attractive that Srila Śukadeva Goswami became detached from being completely absorbed in the impersonal Brahman and positively took up the personal activity of the Lord.
I like that, how it uses that example of how it's superior to the impersonal stepping stone of self-realization. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, they compare there's a happiness called Brahmananda. That's the happiness of Brahman realization, but it's like one fraction of a trillionth of like the bliss that's available in the ocean of devotional service to Krishna. It's not. It's incomparable, really. I mean, compared to the bliss of devotional service. The happiness of impersonal Brahman realization is nothing.
I agree. Practically, he was thrown from the impersonal conception of the absolute, thinking within himself that he had simply wasted so much time in devoting himself to the impersonal feature of the Supreme. Or in other words, he realized more transcendental bliss with the personal feature than the impersonal. And from that time, not only he himself became very dear to the Vishnu Jana, or the devotees of the Lord, but also the Vishnu Jana became very dear to him. The devotees of the Lord who do not wish to kill the individuality of the living entities and who desire to become personal servers of the Lord do not very much like the impersonalists, and similarly, the impersonalists who desire to become one with the Supreme are unable to evaluate the devotees of the Lord. Thus, from time immemorial, these two transcendental pilgrims have sometimes been competitors. In other words, each of them likes to keep separate from the other because of the ultimate personal and impersonal realizations. Therefore, it appears that Srila Shukadeva Goswami also had no liking for the devotees. But since he himself became a saturated devotee, he desired always the transcendental association of Vishnu Jana, and the Vishnu Jana also liked his association since he became a personal Bhagavat. Thus, both the son and the father were completely cognizant of the transcendental knowledge in Brahman, and afterwards both of them became absorbed in the personal features of the Supreme Lord. Question as to how Shukadeva Goswami was attracted by the narration of the Bhagavatam is thus completely answered by this shloka.
Text 12. Shruta Goswami thus addressed the rishis headed by Shonaka. Now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Sri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu.
Purport: Lord Krishna is so kind to the fallen souls that he personally incarnates himself amongst the different kinds of living entities and takes part with them in daily activity. Any historical fact, old or new, which has a connection with the activities of the Lord is to be understood as a transcendental narration of the Lord. Without Krishna, all the supplementary literatures like the Puranas and Mahabharata are simply stories or historical facts. But with Krishna, they become transcendental, and when we hear of them, we at once become transcendentally related with the Lord. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is also a Purana, but the special significance of this Purana is that the activities of the Lord are central and not just supplementary historical facts. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is thus recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the spotless Purana. There's a class of less intelligent devotees of the Bhagavat Purana who desire to relish at once the activities that the Lord narrated in the 10th canto without first understanding the primary cantos. They are under the false impression that the other cantos are not concerned with Krishna, and thus more foolishly than intelligently take to the reading of the 10th canto. These readers are specifically told herein that the other cantos of the Bhagavatam are as important as the 10th canto. No one should try to go into the matters of the 10th canto without having thoroughly understood the purport of the other 9 cantos. Krishna and his pure devotees, like the Pandavas, are on the same plane. Krishna is not without his devotees of all the rasas, and the pure devotees like the Pandavas or others are not without Krishna. The devotees and the Lord are interlinked, and they cannot be separated. Therefore, talks about them are all Krishna Katha, or topics of the Lord.
Yeah, these are histories, like the itihasas are histories, but they're not ordinary histories. These are about anything related with Krishna is transcendental literature. It's not just like mundane, dry historical facts. Because Krishna he manifests himself in these pastimes, and once you when you're reading them or hearing them from a realized soul, you can enter into the spiritual realm by hearing these things. And Krishna is so kind. I like this part where he says Krishna is so kind that he takes part with them in daily activities. Like, he was the servant of Maharaj Yudhisthira, and Maharaj Yudhisthira was a king, and he became the messenger or the personal servant, and he would hang out with all the Yadavas and Arjuna. He drove the chariot of Arjuna. He's so kind, because he wants to associate with human beings so that he can show how wonderful it is that Krishna descends to this material world and manifests his pastimes so we can understand. it's not just like, nobody, the Christians, they don't have any idea who God is. They think he's some kind of a guy that's like old with a beard that lives up in the heaven, he's judging everybody. They don't even know, but this literature has exactly who God is, and
What he looks like,
and what he
all of
looks,
the
what he
appearances.
does, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And like Christians will say, well, you can't even see God, because he's so big, you can't get far enough back to look at him. They have no idea what he looks like. So, but this literature is like compared to any other literature, any kind of like stories or pastimes or philosophy or poetry, mundane stuff that has to do with ordinary living entities, is just, it might titillate the mind of somebody that is reading them, but it's compared to literature for crows. Crows like garbage. And they take pleasure in eating garbage. Like a crow will in India, if you spit out the window, the crow will just like swoop down and eat the spit. It's pretty gross. So, but
I can agree.
so the thing
I
is,
read, I read personally. I read over 100 books before I got to these literatures, and once I got to this stuff and started experiencing firsthand how authentic it is, because it does nothing but proves itself repetitively every day as the most authentic scriptures and whatnot. All the other books ended up being tossed.
yeah.
Well, I'm selling them, but they're in my shop. But they have no use for me anymore once I go.
Yeah, no,
So,
I mean, once you've had like sweetmeats, why would you just like end up eating like something else? It's like this is like so much better than ordinary mundane topics, because once you have a taste, you just can't get enough of it. Just like when I started reading these books, I started out, I was kind of recruited into reading Prabhupada's books. They wanted me to read all his pre-1978 books because there's devotees that are upset about the book changes. But I don't really care about the book changes. Might be controversial, but I don't think they can even change them, to the point where Prabhupada repeats all these things, like you said. They're authentic, and he repeats so many topics that it's not possible for, and they didn't do it on purpose, even if there might be some wordings like cow protection rather than cattle raising or something like that, and everybody's upset with that, but I don't care. I just like to read, and so
I read the newer version, and I'm in the middle of the original. And I'll tell you what, I had a pretty drastic transformation. My whole immediate family went through a transformation with me. So there's definitely still potency in the newer version too. I'm on reading the original one now, and and it's definitely got full potency. I'm
there's no difference. I mean, there's some things that were changed, and I've gone through different changes. My audiobook mentor, the guy that feeds me all these books that besides Prabhupada's books, he told me to read the Padma Purana. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam has 17,000 verses. The Padma Purana has 55,000. So, he's kind of recruiting me. He's got all these books and available because he has the database. I can't figure out how to download the database, but he feeds them to me whenever I need something to read. And
that's a cool name, database.
Yeah, database, just like database.
I like that.
But yeah, those are all Prabhupada's books, but and all the Vedic literature too, supplemental Vedic literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. And so I just started reading, and then I got done reading all of Prabhupada's books, and I thought to myself, oh no, what am I going to read now? I was like a genie out of the bottle, I had to read something, it's like, give me something to read, and then I thought, oh yeah, there's Ramayana, there's Mahabharata there. And then I thought, oh yeah, there's the Goswami literature. And I thought, oh my God, that's like a pile of literature, So I was
It's
like
endless.
anxiety because I knew I'd probably be I would be reading for the rest of my life. I'm already old. I just turned 69, so I'm pretty much a fossil, and the fossil is going to be extinct pretty soon. So I was good to go. As long as I can keep reading, I don't care what happens.
That's cool.
It just like
And
it's in that purport there in the other paragraph, it said even in the most acute distress, a devotee is free from anxiety. Back in the 80s, they had this one program on TV. It was like a made-for-TV movie called The Day After. And you probably haven't heard of it because it came out like 1983 or 4, something like that. But it was about a nuclear holocaust, that happened in America, and the Russians launched weapons and they hit Kansas City, and they had the Kansas City Chiefs the stadium there, and you saw all the missiles coming in, and then everything was wiped out, and people had to have counseling after that because everybody was like, like all the characters in the movie were moping around, and everything was ruined. Their whole lives were ruined, and they were dying and everything. But my spiritual master, he commented on that whole thing. We watched it, and we were on the road at that time, but we even watched it. We stopped our working at night and watched this thing live on TV because that's the only way you could watch things back then, it was like live TV, in the 80s. And so he said, the karmis have no hope, but the devotees have no fear. So it doesn't matter, even in the most extreme circumstances, they don't care, like Prabhupada. Sometimes they ask Prabhupada, what happens, Prabhupada, when the bombs start falling, the nuclear bombs? And Prabhupada just said, Chant Hare Krishna.
I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, they can kill the body. It doesn't matter because the soul is eternal. If you really believe what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that the soul is eternal, and Arjuna didn't have to worry about his grandpa. He was worried about his grandpa because he was attached to his familial relations. But the soul is eternal, and his grandpa would get another body in another place. It was way better than the one he had. It renews his body, and he'd probably live for like tens of thousands of years in some kind of paradisical planet somewhere, So don't worry about them,
And in the Bhagavatam, it explains that Krishna's protected people from, like Parikshit, from atomic bombs and stuff.
He entered the womb of his mother Uttara, and he didn't protect the body. I think was destroyed, but he kind of reconstructed the body, and the Parikshit means inquiring and always looking for that personality, because he saw the personality of Krishna when he was in the embryo form. And throughout his whole life, he was still looking for that, because Krishna made such an impression on his mind. He was like wandering around the womb of his mother, and like brandishing his club, and dissipating all the rays of the Brahmastra weapon, the nuclear weapon, and saved the mother, and he saved Parikshit. And so Parikshit was always looking for that personality. That's what it means. Like Parikshit means the inquiring one, because he never forgot that, even though he was just like in the womb at the time. That's why it's so amazing that you can understand what goes on in the womb, before birth and everything. It's just so complete, and you don't have any, we don't know even how we can't even see our eyelids, we don't know how our hair is growing. We don't know how our food is digested, but everything is there in the Bhagavatam. It's all described. So
I also find very fascinating. I know it's about to come to a close, but you're talking about the Christians not being able to see a God, and this complete, full, detailed description is in these scriptures down to the minute details. These are coming from sages that are lived thousands of years apart on different planets of the universe and all that, and they're all describing the same exact features. I love that. And even up to to Prabhupada. Prabhupada had that experience too. He got to see and associate with Krishna, you know, and
we're getting the
so-
same thing today.
exactly. It's the same stuff. And people act like these guys, what, you think they were tripping on acid or mushrooms? No, they're not like pagans. They're on a level to where they don't need anything like that. You got to do a bunch of hits of acid just to get on their level. You know what I mean? They don't even eat